Hey everyone, it's Will, GamerDad, with another video for you. So of course, with the newest update that's coming out in about an hour or so as of the time of this video, we also have a new Stardream encounter that's available with this update. And so in today's video, we'll discuss my thoughts about who to pick with your Stardream up to version 3.3.110 that does not include Winnefica. Now, if you haven't already, make sure you like and subscribe to my channel. I really appreciate it. I also do have a Patreon account for those who want to support me this way. So as a reminder, the last Stardream encounter was about a few months ago, and at the time I believe that AS Melody or Vette was not in that banner. And so I'll leave a link in the description below of my last video so you can compare notes, see what I picked last time, see my considerations. Many of the considerations will still remain true because we try to build on the Stardream series, from a free-to-play standpoint, and obviously from a light spender up to a heavy whale spender standpoint as well. Now, one thing that has really changed with this Stardream versus the last one is that a lot of changes have occurred with the advent of the Stellar Awakening system. Again, this video is not the time or place to discuss the pros and cons of that system, but more as a note of how to select within the confines of the new system, being that we have to take those into consideration. So as a reminder, the Stellar Awakening units so far that are gacha units, okay, we're not going to include the free ones, Sirius, Oboro, Suzette, and Tsukiya. We also do know that Winnefica, which is not available in this banner, is obviously going to be Stellar Awakened, and spoiler alert, AS Alma has also been announced in Japan, so we will be getting that sometime soon, and she will have Stellar Awakened eligibility as well. Now more on that later. And again, just a reminder that our recommendations for Stardream encounters in general are from a free-to-play standpoint. We understand that this costs real money, and so therefore, GamerDad really wants you to consider all aspects and choose the SDE with the most budget-conscious and best value for your bang for your buck, so to speak. Other than that, the criteria remains the same. Now, just a reminder, if you're willing to spend stones anyway on Stardream Encounter, we still do have the premium starter set. This is the same as last time. It is a first time only and one time only per account. I know a lot of you who are watching this video may be new to the channel as well as new to the game, being that many of you may have picked up the game when Octopath Traveler did collab with Another Eden just a short time ago. And so for 1,000 stones that you get as a premium starter set, this is a paid banner, 8.850 Canadian anyways. You get a lot of items that help you increase your XP and help you level up your units much more easily. You can check out my XP video on that, more information on that, but the premium starter set is very good bang for your buck, and again, is a one-time only, probably the best value you can get in the game if you're willing to spend money on the game. Obviously, the subscriptions, which are the Guides to the Heavens and Guide to the Land, also offer pretty good value, but in terms of raw 1,000 paid stones, you cannot beat the premium starter set. Okay, so anyways, back to that criteria we use for selecting Stardream encounters. We try to recommend units that hopefully last at least 6 to 12 months if possible. Now, that might not be possible nowadays due to the Stellar Awakening system, and obviously with the Stellar Awakening system, we do see even more power creep than we did a few months ago. Stellar Awakening units can be up to level 100, have extra stats, really powerful moves, and some of which we have never seen before. And not only that, Stellar Awakening moves, remember, can interrupt the normal flow of the game, being that you can activate an additional move in conjunction or before another turn is active. So you actually almost get an extra attack before the enemy even starts, which is quite nice. Demonstrated a few times with both SA Suzette as well as SA Aldo. Also, considerations for recommending SDE units, again, just like before, units that can be used from day one to current day in all aspects of the game. That means from beating main story either on beginner mode or obviously in master mode for those who want to challenge, all side episodes, Super boss fights are also emphasized in our set selection and farming and so on and so forth. Now, in terms of actual farming units, again, 0 MP farming units aren't emphasized nearly nowadays, being that the pure raw DPS modifiers of newer units are more than capable of clearing basic story content. And so, unless you want to always play Master where you need the top units in the game to clear mobs, at even veteran level, most newer units can one-shot everything. You might run out a little bit of MP, but there's ways around that, which we won't get into. But, I don't consider that a high reason to pick a unit over some of the other aspects of the game. Also, remember that units that we recommend must fill multiple roles, unless they are so extremely powerful or unique that you can overlook some of the deficiencies. So, examples are a zone setter, for example, that can also do top level DPS. They may be able to buff your unit's max stacks, which is 100, 100, 100, for example, for power and speed, or debuff the enemy type riz down 100%. You can also use them on offense in terms of pure raw DPS, or defense in terms of dual debuffs or triple debuffs upwards of 50 or 60%. Realistically speaking, anything less than 30% is not even a consideration in today's meta. There are lots of units that can do that. Also, barrier pierce is a consideration. There are only a few units that can do so. We will cover some of those in our top 10 picks. And units also get bonus points for the ability to facilitate low turn clears, eleganto clears, and etc. Being that at the end of the day, unless you're totally oblivious to doing super boss fights and optional fights, they will come out at some point. You will get a lot of optional bonus stones, some specialized weapons, and other endgame material. And so even if you're new to the game, some of these units may not be necessary right now, but they will be necessary as you dip your toes into the pool that is super boss fighting. And most importantly, remember, if I don't pick your husbando or your waifu, it's because I hate your roster, I hate your unit, and most importantly, I hate you. Alright, just joking, of course. Pretty standard stuff. So, again, general rules with picking SDEs, because I know this may sound redundant to a lot of you. There are new players to the game, and so I just want to cover this. At least pick a unit that you'll use sometimes. Don't pick a unit that you're going to just put on the backbencher, or you've heard he or she was cool, but you're really not interested in using it, or the boss unit's too cheap, or doesn't align with your kind of strategies. Try pulling on these SDE in the last few days that the Star Dream encounter is available, so you get 30 days from the time you've pulled in order to decide on your SDE pick. The reason why you do that is because in the future you may still actually summon on future banners either with Fatefuls or with Freestones, and if you hit the unit that you actually want to select with the Star Dream, this is a total waste. And so do all your pulling and then wait for a month and maybe try to pull on the last or second last day of the Star Dream fragment. There is an expiry date. They usually remind you. You can look at it yourself and just set a reminder on your mobile device so you don't miss out, because if you do miss out, it is gone permanently. Also, a missing roster unit, waifu or husbando, rank 10 out of 10 for you, does trump tier list every time. Of course, we are ranking units based on their use in the game and nothing to do with your personal preferences in order to either fill a hole in your roster or just someone you like to collect. Finally, do not Star Dream units that you can side grade to save stones. And so again, for example, if you have like normal style Suzette in this case, you are not going to do SDE AS Suzette or ES Suzette. Save your stones and use the side graded system, especially for most older units that you can still do that. Now, obviously with Stellar Awakened units, that is not as much of a consideration, but there's only a handful of units that do that right now. So again, my advice to save money in the long run, only side grade units. Use the Star Dream to unlock a unit that you have no form of, so you can side grade them with either Treatises, Chants, Opuses, and so on and so forth. Now, first question first. Are Stellar Awakened units the new top picks? Do they replace my top 10? I mean, look at that. They have all these abilities, all these huge mods and specialized abilities. They give extra stats. Look at the HP, for example, on the boss, and they can go to level 100. Is this my number 1 pick or number 2 pick? And the answer is no. I am sorry, Suzette. Suzette's number 1 in my heart, but she's not number 1 in the SDE. And the reason for that is, first of all, if you're talking specifically about Suzette and Sukiya, both of which are older and have the retro fit SD, Stellar Awaken, I feel that they each have 3 forms, actually 4 forms, including the altar. You're more likely to hit one of those in an off banner rather than a brand new unit that only has 1 form, for example, such as Alma, Sirius, Oboro, or units like that. And because of just the pure randomness of the pulling on banners, I feel that using your SDE specifically on Suzette and Sukiya is a no-no. Now, of course, you can disagree, and if you really want to waifu it, you can definitely waifu it. But at this point, I would say no. They are still great units, don't get me wrong. They just don't break my top 10 for other reasons, which I'll illustrate shortly. Now, next thing, are we going to recommend Oboro and Sirius? And unfortunately, I do not have those 2 units to show you their moves or whatnot. I also feel no. Now, remember, Star Dreams are new, have been around for a long time, but they're new in the terms of Stellar Awakening system. If you choose Sirius and Oboro, and also Suzette or Sukiya, you only get 1 out of 3 Awakening gauges active. That means that you will be forced to use 2 All Cosmos star charts if you want to unlock those abilities fully. Now, with retro units, of course, you can definitely use Sabira's gems, which I illustrated in one of my previous videos recently. However, the newer gacha units you cannot do, and that is not going to change anytime soon, that at least we are aware of. So hopefully that answers your questions of, oh, do I have to have Stellar Awakening units? I would argue that some gacha units up to, not including the Stellar Awakening system, can rival many of the SA units currently available anyways. And again, there's only a couple, so. Okay, so without any further ado, who's my number 1 pick? Can you guess? You already know what's up, right? My number 1 pick, again, has not changed since the last time. It is going to be my girl, Ephe. Ephe is still broken. Ephe is awesome. And if you're wondering, I am actually putting shadow points into Ephe. I've only pulled her, I think it's a 4? I can't even remember if I pulled anything else. And so I've been putting some of my monthly shadow into her. Now, why? She's old. I mean, she's like 8 months old now. No, actually 10 months old now, right? She was the most recent global first unit. Well, remember when we talked about the unit must fill multiple roles and have extremely powerful or unique abilities? She fits all of that. She is not our only Shade Zone setter now. However, she was for a very long time. But what really sets her apart is the blood contract where, it allows everyone that's not her to tank hits for the whole team. And not only that, the blood contract also gives everyone Lunatic Risk Taker, which basically powers your Lunatic units permanently. And on top, giving extra damage. On top of that, essentially is a way to tank all hits because your unit with blood contract will tank all the hits bent for either one or all your party into itself, dies, and regenerates too. So you basically have 3 minions in front of you to survive all hits. You've probably seen me use Ephe. If you want more information of some of these units, check out my 5-star review channel. They do have Ephe listed, and she is super, super broken. She can, by chance, also give Barrier Pierce. That's not used very often because it only works on a single hit kind of thing. But she is really, really good that way. She has dual debuff, she has some DPS, and, like I said, zone setting, and so on and so forth. But mainly, the blood contract sets her aside as a unique unit that can only be her to fill that one role. Very, very, very powerful. Okay, so that has remained the same. Now, how about my other ones? Rank 2 to 5. Now, this is actually very, very interesting. I was actually contemplating this and deciding who I want to go 2, 3, and 4, 5. And I think I'm still going to go 2, 3 being... You know who? Minoka? And you also know who? Yakumo. And again, they are extremely powerful in their own rights, but really, they're only half the power. It's the Tetra and Kumos that are really ridiculous. So, I don't want to spend too much time on it because I've discussed them in length on my previous video. Again, check that one out in the description below if you need more information. And you probably know all about the sidekicks by now. If you haven't seen it in action, you probably heard everyone recommending these two units either on the subreddit or the Discord. As a quick reminder, they have major abilities where it not only attacks, but mainly it heals 20% each. Heals, restores statuses, gives max HP. I think it gives up. It also does other things that help with physical and magic resistance 30%. So shields, heals, status clear, all in one, and that's on top of your 4 units. Remember, sidekicks are not even part of your main team. They are an additional unit that can't even be hit. So that's awesome. And Kumos, which comes, remember, these come free with those units too. So you're not only pulling for the unit, you're also pulling for the buddy. This unit, speed down, which is very, very useful against some newer bosses. Shade res down, and also can do other scam things like, when you hit a unit with magic, it reduces their damage against you, which is an enemy against you, by 30%. These abilities stack if you use both sidekicks. Both auras can take effect if the conditions are met. And so you have not only one of the top fire slash units in the game that, by the way, can do barrier pierce. You also have one of the actually not even one of the very top shade DPS out there, and I argue one of the top magic user DPS out there in the game who can do billions upon billions of damage. So 2, 3, just purely because of raw DPS on each of the units, not including the sidekicks, which are extremely scamming in their own right. So that hasn't changed. Now, in terms of 4, 5 though, this is actually more interesting. Now, my 4, 5 hasn't changed either, but only because 5, I would actually argue, may be a little bit more marginal, and you can disagree all you want about that. It is Ephe as well as Radius. And so if you're talking strictly on a 4, 5, are they equal to each other? I would actually give the edge to AS Radius at this point. Now, again, the last video was a couple months old. AS Radius now is still considered, and she's been out for over a year, like year and a half maybe, still the #1 tank in the game. The 3 abilities of Chivalry anytime, with the very limited, bosses that can overcome those mechanics, essentially ensures that if you have her on your team, she can help you win the game essentially on her own, not by doing DPS, by allowing your other 3 units to do the DPS required to clear the boss. Also, remember that Fire Slash is a thing. Fire Slash can be used with Aldo SA, can be used with our newest SA Sukiya. Not to mention, in terms of fire, I think Fire Slash is actually the #1 type of fire team out there. So easy with Ultra Sukiya as well as normal style Sukiya and whatever you want to use as your main, not including Radius is also Fire Slash and can contribute to the AF outside of doing all the shielding and other cool things she can do. Not only that, power down 60, barrier shielding, applies pain, and so on and so forth. Great. Now Ephe, not sure how I feel about Ephe. I've actually side-graded both of these for a while now, and I've heard great things about Ephe. I think she is still quite good because what she does is she can give a unit faith, which basically boosts massive amounts of stats based on her own spirit, I believe. Still very, very useful for non-AF strats. However, with the advent of a lot of super bosses, I don't think it's as easy to set up with non-AF strats, although in the case of using AS Radius to help tank your hits while you're using AS Ephe to boost on your main DPS and then conquering it that way, you probably can still do it that way. But strictly from a 4-5 standpoint, Radius would be a clear #4, at least in my eyes. I mean, just look at some of the videos out there in terms of, boss clears and whatnot. Even look at some of my easier clears in terms of using Stellar Awakened Aldo. AS Radius was the MVP for some of those fights. AS Ephe, again, very, very powerful in boosting other people's stats, but may not be right for everyone in the fact that if you don't use it for super boss killing, you may not find her nearly as useful. However, even AS Radius in mid-level fights where you just want to tank and not think about anything, guaranteed winner. So hopefully that solidifies the top 5. So to reiterate, no major changes over the top 5 that I can see. Again, let me know in the comments below if you decide differently or if you have other considerations out of the top 5. But that's how I look at it. And remember, we're talking about all aspects of the game, including super boss fights, Eleganto clears, and so on and so forth. These two don't add a lot to mob clears, but certainly in boss clears, you see plenty of units of these units around. All right, number 6 is actually a newcomer to the list. You probably know who I'm talking about. It's Vette. Now, Vette is unique. The reason why she's unique, and remember, again, we're talking about uniqueness, right? The only Thunder Zone setter that gives the amped ability. Remember that amped ability goes up to 99 stacks. That's on top of her normal Thunder Zone or Awakened Thunder Zone. That gives up to 99% extra thunder damage. So in a thunder team, she is indispensable and a clear number 1 for boosting your entire thunder team's DPS, including units like Stellar Awakened, Oboro, among others. Not only that, she comes with Guns, which is a free buddy, and the buddy is great when you get to 0 AF, either through using a 1-turn AF or just starting with 0 AF. It does give a 20% stat boost. Now, unfortunately, it is considered a buff still, so you still cap out as opposed to a pure stat boost. However, still a great addition, not to mention helps with things like, I think, type res up and some minor abilities, but you're still getting 2 for 1 and you still always pull for the buddy and not the unit. Remember that if you, as much as we joke around, if you don't pull for Vette, you can't get any access to Guns. And so I will say most of the free sidekicks out there aren't nearly as powerful as their gacha equivalents. Not only that, Vette does have other abilities which helps things like mental focus, helps support both magic and physical teams with crit setting, and also massive boosting in terms of giving 100 power in speed, I believe, with one of her moves, which, by the way, is called Exodia, which I always think about Yu-Gi-Oh! And Exodia. So Exodia Obliterate is a thing, and so Vette gets extra points just for the coolness factor alone. But again, if you want a really powered Thunder team, Vette is indispensable in that sense, just because she's the only unit that can do the amped Thunder Zone. All right, number 7. We're starting to get into some controversial areas here. My number 7 is going to be Sesta, because Sesta does good, and she did good, and she's amazing. What else can you say about a unit that can do 5 moves at once? I mean, again, just think of Sesta versus even a Stellar Awakened Suzette. I know Stellar Awakened Suzette can do a lot of things, and she's also my waifu. But as much as she's awesome in her own right, she needs Stellar Awakened to get there. Sesta's not even Stellar Awakened, and she is broken too. Remember, starts with the limitation of having an all-wind team, but starts in Awakened Zone of wind. Does 5 moves with every attack, the last of which is a Barrier Pierce for 7,000 mod. And the offensive boost she gives is crazy. She gives singular focus to herself. She also gives slash down, wind down, and all those power in speed boosts to your whole team, among the other things. And again, did I mention Barrier Pierce? Of the units we've mentioned so far, in the top 7, we have 2 Barrier Pierce units, okay? We have both Sesta, of course. We have Minolka, who can Barrier Pierce. Technically, Ephe can give a unit Barrier Pierce, so I mean 2.5, I guess. But Barrier Pierce is very useful. If you've gotten to any point of some endgames, you've seen barriers in there, and barriers are annoying. And so, unless you want to wait it out and tank with something like AS Radius or try to stall it out, you can just bypass those mechanics and walk right through it. Even in main story part 3, where there's a lot of those bounty hunts and those final bosses, you can use either Minolka Or you can use Sesta, and I used to mix up. I think I used mainly Sesta for the most recent clears, and there's plenty of people using Minolka back in the day. So number 7, still Sesta, because Sesta is irreplaceable, and again, 5 moves in 1. 5 moves in 1. All right, now we're on number 8. And number 8 is a goodie still. She really is a goodie, because she's cute, and she comes with Buddy, yet again. You see the theme here, right? And again, for those who are thinking, oh, Will, you're just like picking all sidekick units. You're picking units that are like, oh, just like fan favorites. Hey, there's a reason these units are fan favorites, right? I mean, again, using the raw power of these units, either from a DPS standpoint or a support standpoint or a zone setting standpoint, I find it hard to match some of these units pure raw power. Like, again, you can't, if you need Ephe on a team, there's no substitution, for example. Likewise, if you need a Lulu on a team, you probably don't have much in terms of subbing. Now, she is a top DPS unit. She can set Awaken Slash Zone, so premier Slash Zone subber. I would say number 1 in Slash Zone. Her sidekick also gives additional Slash Zone slash resistance down and can help Awaken Slash Zone, which is nice. Also helps boost a Lulu by 100% power, which is nice for one turn, being that she has counter attacks at the end of each turn based on the number of slash attacks. So you're getting a lot of DPS in one unit. She also fits very well not only in slash teams, but also in water slash teams. And water slash teams, just like fire slash, is also more recent trending. So you have a Lulu, which obviously can work with units like El Seal, Ias Filmina, Alter Hismina, and so on and so forth. Those are all great units. But even aside of that, a Lulu can be used in more than one team, like I said, in a pure, just a multi-element slash team. You can really rely on her. She has some dual debuffs as well. Relatively weak, but still. Just the fact they have all that extra support and boosting. I believe she also does things like slash res down, which helps because you need those offensive debuffs in order to do a lot of damage. Again, the trends nowadays, and I probably mentioned this in earlier videos, bosses tend to have anywhere from 50 to 100% type shield up as well as physical res up. If you can't apply at least 1 to 200% type and physical res down, you stand little to no chance of dealing any significant damage. And so having a unit with Alter Lulu helping you at least do the physical portion down where your slash teammates are going to do a lot more damage, you just need another unit to apply the appropriate amount of type down. And if you go water, you can go water res down or type down. And there's plenty of synergy between her, for example, and Alter Lulu, not to mention things like El Seal and Alter Hismina. So anyways, really great unit. End of turn attack, great. Full support and number 1 slash stone setter in the game. Alright, so that concludes my top 8. Now in terms of 9, 10, and beyond, it gets a little bit iffy. There are so many units out there that have a lot of possibilities. However, I've always shied away from these 2 units as a recommendation and called them more of I should say conditional picks. But time and time again, I have come back to Nakoko and Dewey. The reason why I say that is, of all these strong elemental teams out there, you can still find a home for Dewey and AS Ultra Dewey, which is also known as RCF or Red Clad Flamemancer, as well as AS Nakoko, in order to really solidify and power your team. If you want a unit that can change both the enemies and your elemental attacks to a certain element of the zone active, look no further than Nakoko. She's the only one that can currently do that. Some units can change the element to one type, but she can change it to any elemental zone out there, whether or not it be, fire, earth, which is her main element, for example, water, so on and so forth. Even thunder, you can still see me use Nakoko on the team. Not to mention she has dual debuff 50-50 and extra boosting of 75% damage for light. I can't remember if weapon or whatnot for light units as opposed to shadow units. Very, very powerful support unit, and again, very unique to changing the element. Now, the only reason why you wouldn't select Nokoko AS is because most of you probably have Nokoko free. And so, unfortunately, that way she would not be considered a pick because, like I said, you don't pick for units you can side grade. Now, RCF is interesting in the fact that he still does give up to 75% type up and type down of the elemental, and like a Nokoko, adjust to the element of your choice. These two find a lot of homes in elemental teams, especially if you don't have the number one elements out there, right? For example, if you only have like one or two, then these can kind of fit as a catch-all and kind of a jack of all trades. Still very, very powerful, but more of, I don't know if I could consider them 9-10, but very, very useful. Now, other than that, honestly, at this point, it really is a preference to who you want to fit your roster. You can always pick Suzette, right? But really, I mean, other choices outside these top 10, in my opinion, would be things like zone setters. So if you're going to pick a zone setter, pick a more recent unit just because their raw DPS and their abilities are much more solid than some of the earlier zone setters out there. For example, are you really going to pick a Pierce setter such as AS Foreign? Or are you going to pick a better Pierce setter such as AS, Yukino? Or in the case of Water Zone, you have a few choices. Are you going to really pick AS Yuna? No, you're not going to pick AS Yuna. You're going to pick either Alciel or Ultra Daenerys, for example. In terms of support units, I'm not really sure what else to really say other than, for example, RCF and Nokoko AS. AS Yifa probably does most of the support you really need in any general team. If you're talking about top-line DPS, there are top-line DPS out there. If you want water, for example, ES Filmina is still considered a top pick for water DPS for Slash anyways. I mean, in the case of fire, you already have Monoka, and in shade, you already have Yakumo. In the case of wind, theoretically, Sesta would cover that. And, now you're going with, there's not much out there. I guess water, you have Ultra Lulu if you really need her as a top. If not, there's other choices, which we already mentioned. I mean, Thunder, you got Vette. These aren't top, but I mean, you can see like the top 10 picks already cover most of the elements out there. They don't cover the weapon zone. So that's another consideration that you want to choose if you want really to round out those teams. Still, units such as Ultra Xion are still unique. He's the only one who can flip resistances and weaknesses. However, you see a lot more null in the game, so he's not necessarily a top pick anymore. He was many years ago, but not so much anymore. So just remember that the meta now requires full elemental or weapon teams, including top level DPS, 1 or 200% type res down, and a lot of luck as well. And of course, with enough grinding, free units can beat all content. But realistically, it's not easy, especially if you're newer to the game. And keep in mind that if you are fresh into the game, and although 255 Light may take many months to grind, for example. So not realistic to follow necessarily all the pure free-to-play teams out there. Some of the most premier YouTube channels that do that have extreme levels of gear and Grasta, which you may not have access to as a year 1 or 2 player. And so keep that in mind when you're watching some of those videos and trying to follow their strats. You may be better off picking one of these top 10 units to help round out your team, and then trying to follow some of the other videos out there that require some gacha units to help finish off a fight. So again, hopefully that gives you some idea as to who to select with your Star Dream. And again, feel free to comment below if you have different ideas of who to go with. Anyways, good luck in all your polls, and good luck with your Star Dream. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.